So I recently watched the movie The Bride, and believe it or not, I did not think it was very good. I'm currently working on a long scripted video, and I still have a lot to edit. So today I kind of feel like taking a break from that to just do a little good old unscripted ranting about a bad movie I've seen. I'm just going to list a few thoughts and notes I had throughout the film and having thought about it a little afterwards. This movie was written and directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, who of course is more well known for being an actress, which is apt because I think this film is really like actor brain personified. In short, it's a lot of pretentious, superficial signifiers of intellect and taste without anything much of substance to say about its subject matter. One of the first and most immediate places you can see this in the movie is its childishly incurious interest in the aesthetics of old Hollywood musicals, while seemingly having nothing to say about that era, that style, those artists, or that industry. I'm a big fan of 1930s Hollywood musicals myself, peep the Danish gay divorcee poster, and so I felt like I had a really attuned lens through which to view this aspect of the movie. I did think it did some pretty accurate pastiche of that type of film. Again, I don't think it was in service of much, given that it didn't really have any commentary on that type of film. I did keep noticing during the segments where Jake Gyllenhaal is supposed to be tap dancing that obviously he did a little bit of the dancing himself, but if you look closely, there are moments where he'll like turn his head away from the camera or his face will be obscured by some prop, and it becomes very obvious that they've swapped him out with a body double who's like a real tap dancer. That's not really a judgment on the film. Like, I get it, movie magic. I just thought it was funny to observe. I honestly thought the best moment in the movie, the part that was almost working for me the most, was that scene where the bride and the creature have crashed that big high society party, and the creature takes his opportunity to tell, I think it's Ronnie Reed, the Fred Astaire type that he's obsessed with, to tell him how much he means to him and how much his art has saved him in his life. And after giving him this very earnest speech about that, the actor just like totally makes like a gay joke, just dismisses him, everybody laughs. I liked that moment. It felt like one of the only genuine and original moments in the film. But then it's completely ruined when the creature and the bride start like crazy dancing together right after, which that was like, okay, whatever. I might have been on board if then that creates this spectacle that makes them all the more ostracized. But instead, for some reason, everybody joins in. In fact, it's almost like that scene in Wicked when Elphaba and Glinda do their funky little dance together and they get everyone to join in. But in Wicked, that makes sense because Glinda is famously popular and she is able to take this lame nerd that nobody likes and make her stuff popular by influencing, essentially. In The Bride, that has no reason to occur. That is not true of either character. So it kind of feels like the film is just sacrificing storytelling in that moment in service of just having a big funky musical number, dance number, because, I don't know, they wanted to. I forgot to mention that said dance number is set to Irving Berlin's Puttin' on the Ritz, which was famously used in Mel Brooks's Young Frankenstein.
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits?
For the record, I also dislike this choice. I'm not a big fan of this type of extremely literal, untransformative reference. I'm sure they thought they were doing something, but to me, including a song in your Frankenstein movie that was iconically used in a different Frankenstein movie with similar intentions, parody, absurdity, is just kind of lazy and cheap. Like brandishing a better, more well-known Frankenstein movie at us and hoping that being reminded of that will make us like this Frankenstein movie as much as we like that one. Much of this movie is just literal references and pastiche, and as a result, despite its eccentricity, it doesn't really feel like it has much identity or meaning of its own. On a more general note, a big thing in the movie, kind of our framing device, is that Mary Shelley, of course, author of Frankenstein, is like narrating a little bit. It's like her spirit is not at rest or something. And so she decides, for the purpose of telling some sort of story that she never got the chance to tell and wants to tell, she decides to possess a woman in the 1930s to kind of live her truth and tell this story. It's not super clear, honestly. Not a lot of things in the movie are. So we've got Mary Shelley possessing this woman who will die and be resurrected as the bride of Frankenstein. And the Mary Shelley spirit keeps coming throughout the story, but not really to do anything or affect anything in the woman, in the bride, but kind of just to break through and randomly make our main character speak in an English accent and like spout big words. So that I would already consider a ding because I think it kind of serves no purpose. It seems to think it serves a big purpose, but I don't think it does. She's kind of just there to speak in a Cockney accent and rattle off big words, which again is a part of the pretentiousness of the film, in my opinion. It's kind of definitionally pretentious to have her just spouting off big words, but it's nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. Also, small thing, I do not consider myself an authority on British accents. Certainly not. In fact, in one of my latest videos, I erroneously called in hindsight, very obviously Australian woman British. Like, I guess I just didn't think about it that hard. So far be it from me to pretend to know that much about English accents, but I was kind of put off by the accent Jessie Buckley chose to do for the character of Mary Shelley. Again, I could be totally wrong, so I'd be curious to get other people's reads on this, but it seemed to me like she was doing this kind of Cockney, working class, gruff accent. And Mary Shelley was, of course, a wealthy, educated woman. Like, she was from London, but I don't know that she would have talked like this. And I get that the movie's not going for realism necessarily, but that did kind of take me out of it. I was like, why is Mary Shelley, author, artiste, socialite, why is she talking like this? It's also just a very annoying affect that Jessie Buckley puts on for that character. I was trying to think of what it reminded me of, and I think I can't put my finger on it any better than female Jack Sparrow. It becomes quite grating. It's just very, very affected. And it feels like something you've seen before somehow. It reminded me of Jack Sparrow because it feels like the kind of impression that you've seen a lot of people do. I also think on a thematic level, the Mary Shelley stuff is actually kind of antithetical to the film's purported aims. The film wants to be about giving a voice and agency to women. That is the closest thing it has to a central theme. In fact, it hits you over the head with it several times. But I would argue that it actually kind of takes away agency and voice from the real-life historical figure Mary Shelley by making her a mouthpiece, without her consent, because she's dead, making her a mouthpiece for this bizarre, vapid fan fiction. Ironically, the film is kind of digging up this dead woman from the grave and making her a puppet for this narrative she has no agency in. And I'm not trying to, cancel The Bride on that level. I know there's a conversation to be had about, at what point historically does it become okay to do whatever we want in art with historical figures. It's been 200 years. It's not like Mary Shelley or anyone that knew her during her lifetime can see this and be offended by it. But I do think if your whole thing is going to be that you're giving this newfound voice and agency and attention to Mary Shelley, I think it's maybe a little counterintuitive to do this. I don't know what, untold story the film even thinks they are having Mary Shelley tell here. She did write Frankenstein in her lifetime. She did very much do that. So what is this untold story that the movie is just making up for her? On a related note, the film has a lot of feminist aims, very overtly, but they're all extremely elementary and in some cases dated. Its feminist themes are just sexism bad, femicide bad, rape bad, and these are all points I wholeheartedly agree with, obviously, but the film doesn't delve any deeper than these very general, obvious injustices. It's also very unsubtle with these messages. It'll have its characters just state them outright, these women are being murdered and silenced and that's bad. Or you have this female detective, but she has to lie that she's the secretary of a male detective to be able to do her work. And we keep hearing her and the male detective repeat throughout the film, it's so unfair that you're a lady detective and you don't get to be open about that. By the end of the movie, there's this extremely silly scene where the lady detective, who's played by Penelope Cruz, she has been confronted by all these cops and she's rattling off her detective directives. And I swear it's like a scene out of like 2007 era Grey's Anatomy in terms of the freshness and subtlety of its feminist message. Because the cops respond to this being like, who are you, little woman? What detective are you talking about? And Penelope Cruz is like, well, boys, would you believe it if I told you I'm the detective? Me? And we have to get that abashed reaction shot from the cops being like, oh boy, we sure made an undue assumption. You're just like crawling out of your skin in the theater, like, get me out of here. The whole film is rife with cliches, some of them probably a little on purpose to be this homage to 1930s style cinema. You know, you've got the mob boss who's evil, and you've got the kooky mad scientist, and you've got the fast-talking lady detective, and the kind of silly, humble man detective who's a little dumb. But it doesn't seem able to separate the cliche elements from the earnest ones. Everything just feels kind of over the top and cartoony and hard to take seriously. Speaking of unsubtle, dated feminist messages, there's literally a scene late in the film where the bride, or maybe it's Mary Shelley, I don't remember, you know, they're played by the same actress, she starts literally yelling about, me too, which again, like, I am a feminist. I do support the Me Too movement. And also, that was like 10 years ago. And I don't mean to say that that's not still relevant in some ways or that those issues are not still happening, but that specific movement and that terminology is 10 years old. And to reference it in such a ham-fisted, like untransformative way just comes off really tacky and odd. There's this incredibly weird scene. I guess this ties into the weird superficial feminism of the movie. To me, the funniest scene in the film probably is this moment where, let me set up the background for this. So in a previous scene, like I said, the bride and the creature have crashed this fancy high society party, and the bride ends up like taking the whole room hostage at gunpoint. She somehow gets her hands on a gun and she holds everybody at gunpoint. She's brandishing this gun around and she starts telling everybody this, at the time in the movie, kind of seemingly out of nowhere, rant about how she's actually involved in this conspiracy where like this mob boss has been killing women and she tried to blow the whistle on it, as did some other women, and they got killed for it. At this point in the movie, you haven't really gotten any context for this yet, so you're like, where is this coming from? Why is this happening? But the point is, she's holding everyone at gunpoint, and she even ends up shooting a cop. I'm not one of those people who thinks it's somehow worse to shoot a cop than any other person, but for the point I'm about to make, you just need to know she's holding everyone at gunpoint, and she shoots a person. And then in one of the following scenes, you've got the bumbling man detective, Peter Sarsgaard, is talking to lady detective Penelope Cruz, and he's talking about how the media is painting the bride as the bad guy and how unfair that is. He's like, they're trying to malign this poor woman for what? The crime of talking, of speaking her truth? And this is a perspective that's being taken seriously by the movie. It's painting this as valid, but you're watching it like, Peter Sarsgaard, I'm watching the movie, like I saw what just happened. I'm sorry, but she was not just like speaking her truth. She was brandishing a gun at a crowd of like 100 people, and then she shot a guy. It's unintentionally a really funny scene because you're watching this man be like, oh, God forbid women do anything. In addition to the ham-fisted themes, characters, dialogue, etc., it also just has this cringe, dated aesthetic and attitude. It's like edgelord fodder. It's so Joker and Harley Quinn. It's so that. It's very like 2015 era Joker memes. That's what the aesthetic and tone of this movie is. It's like watching someone's Joker Harley Quinn fanfic that has for some reason been adapted to the screen with a sizable budget. Like, what's that thing from the 2016 Suicide Squad that's like, she was crazier than him, she was his queen, and God forbid anyone disrespect his queen. The whole movie is like that. Like, that played in earnest. So all in all, I'm not necessarily mad that this got made. I do always like to see a weird, freaky movie in theaters, even if it is objectively bad. But it does pain me a little when famous actors are able to get movies made because they're famous actors, because they have that clout, they have those connections, that money, whatever. They're able to get these terrible, vapid, self-obsessed movies made. And then meanwhile, for normal people, it's so difficult to get anything made. I just think that's really unfair and annoying that just being Maggie Gyllenhaal or being Bradley Cooper can supersede any talent or skill or hard work or whatever. I never saw The Lost Daughter, but I know that Maggie Gyllenhaal made The Lost Daughter, and from what I understand, people really like that movie, so I'm really not sure what happened here. But all that being said, I do think this movie will be a big hit with people who still shop at Hot Topic. I think this movie will be huge for those kids in your middle school or high school class who were really obsessed with The Nightmare Before Christmas. I think this movie will be huge for people who really liked Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland movies, especially the part where Johnny Depp breakdances.